Okay, so just stop me if you heard this one before. Overpowered characters are just... Why did you pause the screen? It's just a figure of speech. Come on, we're wasting time. Because what you just did is kind of rude, chat. Now, stop me if you heard this one before. Overpowered characters are just boring. Now, I don't know why anyone would agree with this take, but I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you lean on one side or the other. And this little intro that I'm gonna do is for the people who believe full-heartedly in this opinion. Now, because you guys, I'm going to use my mind hack abilities, and the only reason why I'm relating it to this and power scaling is because for some reason, you only relate to characters through powers. I don't know why, it's your words, not mine, but through my telepathy, I am going to create a space, a visual space, right before your very eyes. Tell me, what do you see? Yes, little Timmy in the back, what do you see?
Is that a classroom?
Yes, Timmy, your eyes are functioning. Fantastic. I created this classroom because I'm going to be that really cool teacher that allows you to have the singular get out of jail free card, and if you pass, you are not going to go to detention. If it meets my standards, you're not going to have to sit in that chair. I'm telling you though, if you fumble the bag, mark my words, you are going into another room. So don't fumble now, do not mess up, you got one chance. Go. Wrong. Now, I don't know what you said, but I'm going to assume... Why are you talking to your monitor, by the way? I'm going to assume that you said something along the lines of overpowered characters don't have any real challenge or struggle because they can just hand wave something away or punch it really hard and it just goes away. And that, I say to you, thank you so much for identifying yourself as somebody who is very creatively inept, because I can think of, and I'm sure a lot of you can think of a lot of ways to challenge overpowered characters. It's not even that hard. If you look at the rogues gallery, they have a lot of characters who can step up to the plate and fight them head on because of just their overall physicality, or they have really cool abilities, but I'm not talking about that. For me at least, when it comes to characters, their design, their powers, and the overall lore and mythos brings people to, it makes them curious, right, into these certain spaces. I might not be a fan of Green Lantern, but maybe I watched the new Death Battle coming out with Kyle Rayner. I'm like, dude, this is interesting. I want to learn more. But what keeps people there, what makes them stay within the cycles, is the character work, the characterization, supporting cast, how they deal with certain situations and how they get out of it with their morals intact. When even street levels, actually, I don't know why I'm trying to like segregate, but either way, what keeps them interesting is the emotional, ideological, and political challenges and struggles that they have to deal with every day. Just because they're overpowered, it doesn't mean all characterization is stripped away from them. They act just like street level characters because at the end of the day, each and every single character has to fit an archetype, whether that's the Paragon, whether that's the Everyman. You don't have to be a street level character to have these personality traits. All of these overpowered characters are just like us. Some might be more jokey, some might be more philosophical, but either way, they are, for the most part, humanoid in some way, shape, or form. And even if they are aliens, I challenge everyone watching this video to stop what you're doing, not really, watch the video please, but after this, read Darren Warren Johnson's Beta Ray Bill. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. But why this topic kind of sprung to my mind is because I went to this little place that no person should go because brain cells go to die there. Twitter.com, or X if you're a bit different and you want to sound like you're going on a website that you don't belong on. Does anyone even call it X? Let me know down below. But Twitter, oh, I have this one post. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm not gonna mention the name because I don't want people. We're not negative people. I said this before. We are a safe space. We do not shun people for their opinions. But what they said, if I could pull it up and bring it out of my my screenshots here, go to desktop real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, here it is. For real though, Marvel street level heroes are more interesting than their cosmic ones. Now, while everyone is entitled to their own opinion, saying this flat out, full well knowing Marvel's catalog of cosmic characters is actually insane. And off topic though, what is this picture? What is this mishmash of just characters? Superior Spider-Man, US Agent. Is this fan art? Because there's Superior Spider-Man here, US Agent, Daredevil, Luke Cage in some type of fit that's kind of iconic but not really, Jessica Jones post the TV show, Iron Fist in his Heroes for Hire fit, Moon Knight in the 2014 version, Punisher, you look alright, you're fine. But like, those characters are very interesting and I like them, but are you willing to die on that hill knowing how many great cosmic Marvel characters there are? And in this video, I'm trying to not tell you why these characters are better than street levels because I love them equally. As people of this channel know, I glaze the street level characters. Batman is my favorite character. I talk about Nightwing a lot. Dan Waters' Nightwing, that's a bit of a meme at this point. I love those characters, but I really don't understand this take of how overpowered, quote unquote, I don't like even using that word, how these characters are boring. So in this video, I am going to be explaining my case through, of course, examples from Marvel, DC, and at the end of this recording, I am going to be talking about a character that I just want to talk about. I don't even know who I'm going to talk about. Just know that it's not going to be from one of the big two. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first character is Superman. In one of my favorite Superman stories of all time, Peace on Earth. So in the story, what makes it so special is that it actually asks the question that a lot of people ask in real life, which is why doesn't Superman solve the world's issues if he has all of this immense power? So in this book, Superman is like, let's go guys, let's go, let's solve world hunger, let's go. But at the end of the day, he fails, not because he's weak, but because the world isn't really ready. You can't exactly force peace on Earth. It's something that the people have to choose themselves. It reframes the entire story as one man, his idealism not being enough to deal with the realism of the world. It shows that the greatest enemy isn't exactly a supervillain, isn't Lex Luthor twirling his invisible mustache, rubbing his bald head. It's politics, it's fear, it's corruption, it's the fact that he doesn't really want to deal with foreign affairs, but once he sees injustice, he has to take action. Where does Action Comics come from? You know what I'm saying? That's who he is inside. And in the book, what happens is that he takes a bunch of food to the downtrodden people of the world, people who are seen as less than. But the problem that he really had to deal with are the tyrants, the people who put their boot on the throats of those that they're meant to protect, the government, and how they take advantage of other people, a story that's been told since the beginning of time. But he does realize that he can't be everywhere at once. As soon as he leaves, these people are going to be taken advantage of, or they're just going to have their food taken away. In one circumstance, he has this giant shipment of food, but it gets hit by a nuke, and then eventually he realizes all of the food is just unedible. His entire mission was for naught. He returns to America, he is all sad and stuff, as most people would be, but then he comes out with a better perspective, right? He writes this article as Clark Kent, which is really beautiful, but it goes along the lines of a true peace on Earth, what that really is, trying to answer that one question that he tried to solve. What it really is teaching the young, letting them have the knowledge to create a better future, one that's away from the older generation, all of their machinations, something that they could truly create without their supervision and without their corruption. And how do you really do this, right? Through knowledge, through education, through telling them what they can be by giving them a dream to follow, giving them the ability to follow their dreams. And honestly, it follows this kind of phrase where it's like, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach him how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. That is the true goal, to create a peace on Earth. And it's incredibly beautiful. I love this story so much. Now, let's move on to another situation, but it's more of the abstract fighting situation. Punchy, I know you guys like it. And it's really about Darkseid and his final fight with Superman in Final Crisis. So let's get on to that. So in Final Crisis, what makes this very interesting, and it sees Superman kind of inverted on its head, the entire concept of Superman, because it shows him fighting on the largest cosmic scale possible, fighting against a Darkseid who now is in possession of the anti-life. His entire life's work has been building to this one moment, and he finally has it. And with the anti-life equation, it makes everybody on Earth and in the universe subservient to Darkseid. They're all under his will. And it's really interesting because Superman as a character, as we know him, he is somebody who is loved by everyone, a true symbol of peace. Everybody loves him, but it really gets inverted on its head once everybody literally becomes Darkseid. So to kind of really show you what this means, let me read an excerpt from Final Crisis, one of my favorite DC events. So let's go. You turned your back and I wrecked your world. I robbed your people of their powers, their hopes, their future, themselves. What will you do then when your enemies, your friends, your lover are all Darkseid? When there is one body, one mind, one will, one life? That is Darkseid. Will you be the enemy of all existence then? What irony that will be son of Krypton. And then Superman just bum rushes him. He's like, monster, what have you done? And then Darkseid is just so cold, man. He's like, kill me, Superman. Kill the frail old man upon whose soul Darkseid fed and fattened. How can you hurt a foe made of people? I recognize your DNA. Turpin, Dan Turpin, of all people you could have chosen, Batman. He would have resisted longer than I wished. Turpin struggled just enough to nurture me before his surrender. Kill him. Kill me and you kill everything. Superman killing Darkseid would kill everybody under the effects of the anti-life. This is that level of crazy positioning that makes cosmic characters so fascinating to read. The certain ultimatums that street level characters literally wouldn't be in other than Batman because he finds himself in literally every situation possible. But this is what I'm talking about. All of these cosmic, crazy, abstract things where Superman literally by extension became the enemy of all because Darkseid found his one goal, finally. Just seeing Darkseid become this black hole of just tyranny, just drawing everyone towards him just to, as you've seen before, die with Batman literally dying. It was one of the craziest things to see, and this is what makes cosmic characters so weird and great. The things that you can tell in these stories are so creative, and I just love it. Now let's move on to Shazam and the Power of Hope. And in this book, what makes it interesting is that it kind of follows the same format as Peace on Earth, the previous story that I was talking about, because it sees them dealing with smaller issues. So Shazam, or at this point he was called Captain Marvel, he visits a children's hospital, and what it really is a display of empathy. He's not trying to save the world, he's trying to save the hope of these children, of at least one child. The tension in the entire book isn't, how can I win this battle? How can I beat down this enemy? It's, how can I connect? How can I use my abilities to give these kids something better? These are terminally ill children. How can I make their final moments some of the best that it can possibly be? And then we even go on to certain things where it's like children getting abused by their family. And then Shazam literally paying them a visit in the most baller way possible, saying, if you touch your son ever again, I'm gonna break your legs and throw you into the sun. He's not obviously going to do that, but it shows you what one child, you have to remember, Shazam is a kid, how he feels, how he can literally connect, but nobody will ever know how he really sees the world. A child with the wisdom of Solomon, the level of connection that he has is literally unparalleled to any other hero out there. He is the best person for these situations, but it's something that he's never had to deal with. But this story really puts him in the thick of it, and it's honestly heartbreaking to see at the end of the story. One of my favorite stories of all time. And then we move on to Superman Shazam First Thunder, a very popular book out there that I've seen. And what makes it popular is that it's Shazam's first appearance, quote unquote, because it shows him really becoming Shazam, and it really just accentuates the dangers of giving a child superpower. There's so much loss and grief in the book, Shazam dealing with the no-kill rule, the fact that he wants to kill these people who have done so much things to him, but it's not a story that tests his strength, it's really his soul, and Superman is there every step of the way to help him, to make sure that he's on the right path. It's kind of like sending a child. All of this power boosts him into this level of maturity. He has to be mature because he's literally given the weight of the world on his shoulders. The fact that he has this power has led to his friend, his child friend, right? Not like a superhero, a literal child getting shot and killed. I'm pretty sure it was at school or something of the sort. And it leads to this really cool discussion with Superman and the Wizard Shazam. I'm gonna pull it up right now. I don't have it in front of me, but it's, you guys know, it's one of the best out there, and I really love it. So let's go through it. He's like, what have you done? And then Shazam, the wizard that is like, I have bestowed the powers of the gods upon a mortal. It is in my province to do so. And he's like, it's a little boy. You did this to a little boy. And he's like, he's more than that. He's adept, he's tenacious than anyone I've ever seen. And then Superman's like, dude, what is wrong with you? He's a child. He shouldn't have to worry about this. He should have to worry about going to school, having fun with his friends, going to bed at night, having late nights playing video games, doing his homework, not having to worry about his friends being murdered by an assassin. And then Shazam is so cold-hearted in this. He's like, it is his fate to bear the mantle. He doesn't have any sort of empathy, which he really does have. It just seems like he doesn't. And he's like, do not talk to me about fate. All of you people of magic, you sorcerers, all you talk about is fate and destiny. This is wrong. No boy should have this weight on their shoulders. It is a fate chosen by men. He is a boy. But then Shazam kind of turns it around. He's like, yeah, he's a boy, but he's a boy who could use some guidance. And that's what really leads to this mentee mentorship with Shazam and Superman through this entire book. And it's something that a lot of us can relate and experience to. Putting it into this not only cosmic but supernatural framework really makes it a sight to behold. Seeing something like this pulled off to such an astoundingly good degree. And I love books like this. And the next character is Norrin Radd, the GOAT Silver Surfer, through the book Silver Surfer Requiem. This book is really fascinating because it's literally the end of Silver Surfer's story. It's in the Marvel Knights imprint, so it wasn't exactly aligned perfectly in time with the current day, but it reminds me a lot of All-Star Superman, and the idea, the major conflict of it, because he's so powerful, is not, can I stop my death, is what can I do in the meantime? What does it mean to leave this world in a better place? And what's really interesting is this conversation that he has with Spidey. Now, this might be it will be spoilers, but the entire idea of it was really fascinating. So he's like this: you are all the same species, you have the same goals, the same dreams, the same fears, eat the same food, sleep the same, but you go out of your way to divide yourselves, to make it easy to kill one another. Boundaries, nations, blocks, creeds, names, fashion. You kill one another for a pair of sneakers. And he really believes in the beauty of this planet, but he says something that's very fascinating. He's like, you guys are all a race of madmen because you go out of your way to be in conflict with one another. And he says all of this to Peter, to Spider-Man, and it's this great philosophical debate, but he's also trying his best to do what he can, the best that he can with the remaining time he has left. Through this conversation with Spidey, right, Spidey is like, dude, if this is going to be your last, right, they're not really exactly that close, but during this story, he really finds this major connection. He doesn't even know Norrin's real name, and he only really knows about it through MJ asking him, but I'm getting far ahead. What I really want to talk about is how Peter inspires Silver Surfer to do the best for humanity, and what he does for a kind of little birthday gift for MJ, right? So he was like, do you want to experience the power that I have, right? He wants to share the experience that he has with the power of Cosmic, but he's like, nah, I'm okay. I've seen a lot. I would like to give it to somebody else. Would I be able to do that? And he was like, yeah, that would depend. And he brings MJ, and he was like, let your mind and your thoughts be clear and prepare yourself to experience the power cosmic. And she goes out into space. It's really human, right? And she feels everything, every human heartbeat. She can hear everything. He lets her go into the stars, and when she comes back, she can't even explain how she felt. It was such a surreal experience. But what's really cool is that after this, he was like, you know what if for this one moment before I go, I'm able to make everybody on planet Earth, everyone, to feel the exact same thing, but just for a moment, this feeling of tranquility wherever you were, that you felt better. That was his last gift to Earth, right? This is what he thought was the best of his ability. So what he did, he exerted himself, all of this effort, just to launch the power of Cosmic into the ether, into every single place on planet Earth. And there's this little excerpt that's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever read. And it's like this: in prisons where light could not penetrate, in cities and villages where the gnawing of hunger was eternal and tangible, in torture camps, in war zones, and parliaments of tyrants, in distant places where hope had become a mockery, and tomorrow was a promise of more pain and suffering, in the thoughts of those who caused violence because they knew no other way, whose own minds were as torn and tortured as those they harmed. For 5 minutes, they and the whole world knew what it was to be at peace, to be free. Tell me that's not only, it's not exactly relatable, but it really is, because he's making everybody on planet Earth this one singular species. It's like letting people, everyone, some level to strive towards. People want to reach that level of utopia, and Surfer just gave them a little touch, a little nibble of what that could really be. That's what I'm talking about, the creative aspect, but also a very human relation that the writer J. Michael Straczynski really played on for this to work. It's beautiful. Now, the next story that I want to talk about is Dan Slott's and Mike Allred's Silver Surfer run. Now, this is also one of my favorites. It's very interesting in terms of like Silver Surfer content, because it's kind of like very much inspired by Doctor Who, and it makes the Surfer have this human companion with him who he travels with throughout the cosmos. And it's a superhero book, a sci-fi book that is secretly positioned as a romantic comic, which is what I really like, as well as being, of course, an adventure story. And he finds himself in contact with a human woman, somebody who is supposed to be, quote unquote, the most important woman or person in his life, but he had no clue who the woman was. And we see this connection that is built between the both of them through the story. The entire thing kind of reads like a cosmic adventure, experiencing different things each and every issue. And there's a lot of character work that comes together, right? And the woman's name, her name is Dawn, and they go on a multitude of different journeys while getting close. He even like makes a ring for her out of the power cosmic, kind of like a good gesture, but also it helps him like track her and stuff like that. It's a really cool way of having this woman, Dawn, be kind of a gateway to the Silver Surfer. If you've never read Silver Surfer, she is the perspective character, the person that you latch onto to learn more about the Surfer, because you learn more about him as she learns more about him. And this book has won an Eisner, and that's what I really want to talk about in issues, I'm pretty sure it was 8 and 10, and what's happened was that she feels like he is this space god, right? Somebody who is very majestic, a person who is pure good. But in these issues, she learns that he is literally somebody seen across the cosmos as an angel of death, because you have to realize, as the Herald of Galactus, to spare his world, he has to find planets for Galactus to literally consume, and because of this, he has led to the death of billions. Talk about guilt. I'm telling you, of course, overpowered characters can deal with great issues. All of this is just on a grander scale, and obviously this leads to a crack in their relationship. But what does happen, this critical point, is that Galactus appears again, and to kind of ward him off, he does this really cool thing where he uses the moon as a sort of planet-sized projectile, but obviously it doesn't work. It isn't enough to deter Galactus. If he wants to eat something, he will. You're not going to stop the gobble monster. It's not going to work. But what does happen is that Dawn herself, she's trying to sacrifice herself to be a new herald so that Galactus will not eat the planet, but she's making the ultimate sacrifice if this does happen. And it isn't really just her as well. She makes this kind of like rally where every single person on this earth, right, they will become a herald as well. So it's like, this is the true ultimatum of Galactus and what makes all of these encounters so interesting. But what does happen, right, is that they evacuate their home, unfortunately. Silver Surfer promises to lead them to a better place so that they can rebuild and be safe. And this leads to the issue that I want to talk about, which is really cool because the structure of it is kind of like a Mobius strip loop, where it's like each part of the story is like a different point in time, and it's like you can read it in different ways. It's kind of like Palm Springs, if you've seen that movie with Kristen Milioti. I love her as an actress, and I guess a better explanation would be Groundhog Day, because most people have watched it. But it's a time loop, right? They're consistently stuck living out the same life over and over again, and they're trying to break their way out of the cycle, but Surfer, surprisingly, isn't strong enough. And through the book, we're able to see the same story play out, but through different perspectives, through different characters in the story. And that's what gives it this really cool structure that makes it just fascinating. This is the abstract aspect I was talking about, things that you can't really do in normal street level comics. And just look at the art, it's so psychedelic, beautiful, and it really shows off the creativity of the world, right? As you read through different perspectives, you kind of gain more bits and pieces to the overall story. As you gain different context, and I guess thematically it just makes it more interesting. It's kind of almost like really like a metaphor for like the comic book industry as a whole, because if you think about it, you're kind of stuck in this cycle and you're never really able to deviate from what the status quo really is, but at the end of the day, you still can try your best to make great stories, and obviously this is one of them. This was such a leap of faith, something that you really wouldn't see in any other medium, and you have to read it in so many different ways, and eventually it all just makes sense. Everything is kind of backwards and stuff like that, but it leads to this one really cool splash page where he just breaks out. And the effort and the amount of work that went into this is so fascinating. What's like really cool is that there's this little giant whiteboard by Mike Allred, the artist, and look at this mad scientist cooking. Holy man, this man was on his stuff. But that's what I love to see. I love to see people fully take advantage of the medium, and you can only really do that in the cosmic space. Look at this monstrosity, but it's beautiful. Even looking at his notes, because I wouldn't be able to explain this in the best of my ability, you have to read it, and particularly you have to read it through through a physical copy. It's kind of hard to read it in like digital format because you don't really get all that it's worth. But right here, it's like this. Kind of look at it this way. This is a cool illustration. So all new sequence, we go further back in time in the red section, and we go more into the future in the blue section. With the ring, the server can now break out, and you see this little path because you kind of have to fold the book a bit, and then boom, 2-page splash page, freedom. They've made it to another world to rebuild, and it's like, ugh, tell me this is not peak, man, come on. And now let's move on, because I'm gonna be here all day. Let's move on to another one of my favorite characters, Nova. Particularly Richard Rider. I know you're gonna make a joke, don't do it. Nova is such an interesting character, and that's probably because I see him as Cosmic Spider-Man the same way I do Kyle Rayner, and whoa, just by thinking about this, I just realized that Kyle Rayner and Richard, they're very similar, and this is going to be my pitch to the Green Lantern fans, that Nova, just come over to the other side. Nova is the Marvel equivalent, and I hope you guys start reading Nova, and I guess the entire Dan Abnett Cosmic Marvel saga was starting with Annihilation, because this was, in my opinion, one of the best eras of Marvel, and it was completely separated from Earth. All of it dealt with the cosmic mythology, and it really got pushed to the wayside because it happened the same time as Civil War, so people didn't deem it as important. But in my opinion, it is so much better, the best Marvel event of all time. I love Annihilation. And that entire era is just really great for just the development of Nova. So Nova, he did start off more as a Spider-Man-like character, but because of the events of Annihilation, he really becomes more jaded and dark. The Annihilus wave, or just I guess Annihilus himself, I'm pretty sure, he managed to kill the Nova Corps, right? He destroyed every single Centurion. Nova was the last man standing, and because of that, he had to deal with survivor's guilt. And it's kind of similar, as I've said before, to Kyle Rayner in Emerald Twilight, where everyone was killed by Parallax Hal Jordan. You see the similarities, they're there, guys, come on, join us, please. Green Lantern fans, come on. But at this point on, he has to deal with so much, right? It's like he becomes overpowered overnight. Yes, he has the Nova Force, but at this point, he now has the World Mind, this Jarvis-like intelligence, but just amped 100 times. He can do almost anything. He holds the information, all of it, of the home planet, of Xander, while also being able to do so much things, but he has the voices, the memories of an entire dead army inside of his head. There's copies of the people who died in this great battle. And because of this, it's a story not just about guilt, but also about carrying on the legacy of those who passed on before you. Sacrifice, but on a cosmic scale. And this really does isolate him, but of course it eventually leads to him growing as a character. And the world mind dynamic is just really cool because having all of those like voices in your head, if you can't really control it, it can lead to your insanity, but eventually it does lead to a lot of like back and forth, a lot of confrontations and arguments with the world mind and the people in his head, but it also leads to a lot of like moments where they coalesce and everything is all right. But the real story at the end of the day is he is the center of the galactic effort to fight against Annihilus. But it shows that leadership can eventually break you, but also make you stronger. At the end, it's this very cathartic moment where he shoves his hand down Annihilus's throat and literally pulls out his guts and says this is for Nova Corps. So again, this goes into the more battle aspects that I was talking about with the cosmic scale, how this can also be as interesting, if at times more so, than the street level tier. Now I also want to talk about like the Thanos imperative, and in this, what's really cool is it leads to a more of a buildup of Nova and Star-Lord's relationship, and they were fighting Thanos in a universe called the Cancerverse, and in this universe, it's really been taken over. It's kind of like a living corpse where this world literally defeated death, but they had to sacrifice a lot, and everyone in it is kind of like this, not really zombie, but they end up worshipping the what are they called, the angled ones who like really made a pact with Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, and they cured him of his cancer, right? And they ended up twisting and corrupted all of the people in the Marvel universe, and they had to really kill an aspect of like the universe's version of death. And in this universe, I'm pretty sure it was Thanos, but they want to grow and go on to other worlds like this cancerous tumor, and obviously they do not want that in the slightest, so it leads to them just fighting each other in a world where you cannot die. They end up killing each other multiple times, but it just ends up with them respawning in a different location in that world, and they end up sacrificing themselves to keep that Cancerverse from ever making it to the mortal plane, right? With the Nova Force, Richard could really do anything, but the real threat in this circumstance was nihilism, right? And he has to fight with a purpose. Everything lives, right? Everything doesn't really have to die or be in this kind of corpse-like setting. And at the end of the day, they had to stop a concept and be willing to die for something much bigger than them, right? And that's kind of the relatable aspect that I was talking about. It's like people in the real world, we have dreams, things we're willing to fight for, but to really push through with that dream, we have to go against things that are much bigger than us. But through a force, through a collective, we're able to be bigger than we ever were as an individual. And Nova and Star-Lord, in their final stance, their final fight in the Cancerverse to trap Thanos there, is one of sacrifice, something that wouldn't have been done by a lot of others, but they decided to make that choice. That's why I love these characters so much, and they go through so much. But at the end of the day, it's for the greater good, right? It's something that you could see a character like Spider-Man or Batman or Daredevil do. But dude, the overpowered characters are doing it too, so what are we really trying to get at here, right? I hope I'm proving to you guys that these characters can be as fascinating, if not more so. Now to move on to a character that I really love that I was going to talk about at the end of the video, and I just came up with it now. Drum roll, please. Ben 10. So before I get started, I'm just going to remind everybody that I have not watched Omniverse, but I have watched up to Ultimate Alien. So my perspective on Alien X, so I'm going to be talking about, is limited. But I really do love how they position Alien X as this ultimate power, not a power fantasy, but a godhood that turns into a debate club. That is so cool. I'm pretty sure there's like 3 different personalities. There's Serena, who's love. There's Bellicus, who's rage, and then of course there's Ben, who's like the human perspective. And what's really cool is that for any action of Alien X to happen, 2 of those personalities need to be in full agreement, which literally leads to Ben as Alien X standing still, which is so funny because this man could reality warp, he can manipulate time, he can, I don't know, use telekinesis. But at the end of the day, it shows that power without a consensus is literally useless. You can snap your fingers and create the universe into any shape that you want. But at the end of the day, it shows you, yes, he's a character, but he's a character that can only be pulled out to question certain things about morality. It's a good way to make Ben accountable for his actions. It makes us really think about the weight of decision making. All of them have differing worldviews and perspectives of what is actually necessary to use godlike power, but Ben is just a kid. Using this power can have ultimate consequences. You can do anything, but really, should you do it? And Ben is stuck in this cosmic courtroom every time he uses it, but it's really cool because it forces Ben to be in a more philosophical mindset. It forces him into it, a place where he really wouldn't be otherwise, and it gets us more into the psyche of Ben himself. It leads to more character exploration. That's a really cool power system, something that I've never really seen, not never, but something that's rarely seen in superhero cartoons. And the fact that we have one alien that leads to Ben asking very abstract, large questions, and then having these alien heads kind of rebuttal or use their point of view to kind of say why they should or shouldn't do a certain action is brilliant. And I love how it shows the real weight of reality warping. A lot of characters just do it, flick of the wrist, and eventually that leads to some sort of fall from grace. But this kind of countermeasure prevents that from happening to Ben, and that's such a cool idea. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live. And yeah, see you all later. Take care. Deuces.